Hey everybody, Thomas here, and this is the long-awaited 200-hour review of the Massey Ferguson 2705E. I've moved down here into the woods to try to prevent some of the wind. I know the wind is still up, and I apologize if there's a lot of wind noise. So if you're looking at a tractor that's comparable to, say, a 4 Series John Deere tractor, the 2705E and the 2706E may be the tractor for you. So with this being an E Series and an Economy Series tractor, this is a utilitarian tractor. There are no extra bells and whistles. This is a tractor meant to work hard, and work hard every single day you own it. I've had this tractor now for 1 year and 2 months, and even though I'm saying this is 200 hours, I've got 223 hours on this tractor. It has been a fantastic tractor. It has met or exceeded expectations in my book for just about everything. The biggest reason why I got this tractor, if you follow the channel, you know I have a sawmill, is because of the front end loader. Now the sawmill, I've gone through a few sawmills here recently, and every time I upgrade a sawmill, I got to make sure that I have a tractor that will match it. Well, when I upgraded to my 1400 diesel mill that I can handle a 32-inch diameter log, I had to sell my John Deere tractor and move up to this. But I wanted to make sure I got a tractor that could actually handle even larger if I did want to ever increase my sawmill's capability. And in fact, I did that shortly after buying this tractor. I ended up buying my Timber King 2000 sawmill, which can handle up to a 36-inch diameter log, or 37, whatever. It's just massive. But single cuts can be 35 inches. So I needed a tractor that could handle lifting a log up to 35, 36-inch diameter and not give any, any grunts or groans about that. This tractor can do that. So I know in the specs it says the front end loader on this can lift about 2,400, 2,500 pounds, somewhere in that range. That's to a certain point high above the frame of the tractor at the pivot. If you are only lifting, say, 3,200 pounds, and you only need to lift it just like a foot or two off the ground, this tractor can do that. Now, I wouldn't suggest driving around with a load that heavy all the time, because as you go over bumps and whatnot, it does stress your seals on your hydraulic system on your front end loader. But this tractor does have enough oomph to do that. I'm also a big fan of adding fluid, or any kind of low weight you can get in a tractor, so I do have fluid in my back tires. And speaking about tires, the R4 industrial tires I have on here, I cannot say enough about these tires. In my line of work, on the side gig, I should say, with the sawmill, I actually do go and remove trees from people's yards, or I'll go, remove trees around the farm. I didn't want to put ag tires on here because ag tires, they're pretty rough on the ground, especially if it's like a wet ground and you just had a rain and everything. I don't want to tear up people's yards and have to be, worried about tearing that up. These R4 tires, they give you enough traction both on the road and off the road without tearing up a yard. Now, if you have this tractor in four-wheel drive and you're making really sharp turns, your front tires are going to grip a little bit more, and you will still turn grass over. But being that they are R4, you'll have a little bit of slippage in there. You won't have as much grip as a say an ag tire that would really tear up the yard. But big fan of the R4 industrial tires. I know it's almost like a standard feature on most tractors now in the compact series, because, or the subcompact and compact, because they offer that traction, they offer the ability to clean up a yard without tearing up your yard. So working our way around the tractor, I spoke about the front end loader. I love it. It's the main reason why I bought this, and it is just the actual workhorse on the property. But with the front end loader that can handle this, you need a front axle that's pretty stout. The axles on this, as in most tractors, are pretty stout. But one of the things I like very much in the way that John Deere does this as well is they actually have their steering rams on the hydraulics behind the axle. Not only is it behind the axle, it's also above the axle. So if you somehow manage to get yourself in a situation where you have a stump, either on your axle's on that stump, or that stump is behind that axle, you still do have, I guess, a bit of a safety net, because your hydraulic steering ram there is actually above the axle. It's a really bad situation to be in. But if you are in that situation, know that your steering linkage is pretty high, and you should be okay. On the Kubotas, I know that they have those in the front, and they have little guards. I've never really been a big fan of that because, it's a tractor. We know it's a tractor, but we may sometimes use it as a bulldozer. That also being said, something I did here recently fix is I did, you know, me being a user of my tractor, I think it's a bulldozer sometimes. I did bend in, I don't know what I hit. I may have hit a tree or hit something with this, but I did bend this section in. You can see a little crease point down there where it popped some paint, and it had this bent. And for a while, I had it where I could not open my hood. Well, since I have a front end loader, I hooked a chain to the front end loader, did a little bit of pulling, and now my hood clears. Very happy about that. So since we're here in the front of the tractor and open up the hood, we'll go and talk about what I like in here and some interesting facts. So it's an all metal hood. It's really nice. On my dad's tractor, he's got a John Deere 4610. That hood is plastic. A while ago on a cold day, said plastic hood was up, and then we released said plastic hood and promptly put a hand right through it. You won't do that with a metal hood. At first I was like, well, is it that big of a deal? I can tell you I have dropped some things in the front of this tractor that if it would have hit a plastic hood, I don't know how the plastic hood would have fared during that. So I'm actually a pretty big supporter of metal hoods now. Now if you do put a crease in a metal hood, you got a crease in there, but if you have any skills with the hammer, you might be able to pop it out. There you go. All right, so what they do allow you to do on this tractor is they give you a little screen right here, which I really like everything. So if you got a whole lot of gunk build up everything, you can actually clean it out without having to get onto the fins of the radiator. That's a really nice little feature. It doesn't cost a whole lot, but it's really nice. I'm just glad that they just thought that, you know, that little thing through. The hood being all one section right here is actually really nice too, because you don't have to worry about side panels to take off. And really the best thing to do when you have your hood up and you're doing work around the engine and stuff like that is actually have your forks up, because it gives you more room to walk around. But pretty much with the hood up, there's nothing you can't get to. You can get to the air box, get to the oil, you can get to everything you need to. They also give you a lot of this little screen protector stuff around, which is nice. It's really nice when you have something protecting, say, your fan belt in there. So if you had a stick that was trying to, you know, push in there, you wouldn't have to worry about dislodging your belt off of the track. So that's pretty nice. Also, something I really like about this tractor, there's not a lot of nooks and crannies that you can't get your hand or a tool to where critters can hide into. So as you see, there's a decent amount of space all in here, and you can see on top of the engine, you know, all around it, below the turbo, the starter, all that stuff. There's plenty of room for you to work around this tractor. Now on my last tractor, I had a really bad problem of getting critters, rats and stuff like that into there. The only place I've seen a rat get into this tractor is down there below all the belts and everything. There is like a little plate. I've had a rat get down there, and the only reason I knew it was down there because my dogs were barking around the tractor. But I think there were two. Whenever I cranked with the tractor, this belt right here, when you crank up, is a pretty good rat removal tool. So one rat was removed and the other one was down there. We had to get it out, but yeah, little things like that. I mean, just the fact that there's a lot of space around the engine. It's not all cram-packed in there. So that's pretty nice. I think a lot of that has to do with, since this tractor does not have a diesel particulate filter, it just has a diesel catalytic converter. You don't have to have all that extra piping and you know, wires all over the place. Since we're in this area, we'll talk about the fuel tank. The fuel tank being down low. You know, maybe a few years back, I would have said a fuel tank down low, that seems like a bad idea. It seems like you can puncture through that fuel tank. Well, now that I'm older, and not to say that it's I don't use my tractor hard like I used to. I still use my tractor hard. They do give you some skid plates here, but I'm really not too worried about hitting my fuel tank down low. I think it's pretty well protected. The only thing I've come into an issue with is whenever you're working around vines. So whenever I get out into the woods out there and I've got some vines hanging down from some trees, I've had a vine come by and try to grab onto around this, you know, filler cap here. Not really an issue because I could see it. It's not in a location you can't see that something's about to hit it. You can see everything around it. And it does have skid plates, and you actually have your step right here. The step kind of adds a little protection to it as well, but it's just the comfort and the ease of trying to fill up your fuel tank down low is really nice, because we all know with all these silly fillers that they have now in these gas cans and diesel cans, they're just really hard to pour without them taking forever and just getting all over the place. I can take the filler cap off of this, or off the can, and take this cap off here and fill it right up from a low position. It's really nice, unlike on the past 2 John Deeres where we've had where you fill it up on top, and it's just a pain, and you get fuel all over the place up there. So this is pretty easy. I like it. You know, it's just a little thing like that, but 15 gallon fuel tank, it goes a long way. On the rear side of the tractor, 3-point hitch. This is the first tractor I've ever had that actually had these little extender things right here. I love these things. At first I really didn't use it much, but you know, I was talking to my neighbor. He's like, why don't you use this more? Why are you trying to move the equipment to the machine? Why don't you just move this little bar to the equipment? So you back up to, say, a box blade, and this one I've got to get it pretty dang close because I got to put my pin all the way through. By having this extra few inches, so you hit this, you pull this out, and it gives you a couple inches of, you know, room to work with. So one of them, you can typically get one right on, but if you're not exactly, you know, parallel to the plane of this piece of equipment, it's a real pain. Having those little extensions on there, like the extra range that it gives you, is really nice, and it's easy to work by hand. I use these all the time right now. I love them. Instead of having turnbuckles like on my other John Deere, they have these little sliding arms. I like them. They're really easy. My dad's tractor has this, but my 3032E did not have these. Really big fan of these. Now for one little gripe. So you've got your little sight gauge back here for your hydraulic oil. The hydraulic oil in this one is the same for the transmission as well, for the front end loader and steering. It's all the same hydraulic oil, and it all fills in one location right here on the back of the tractor. So yeah, here's my complaint. All they give you is a cap. You don't have a dipstick. So whenever you're changing your hydraulic fluid, I guess you know how much comes out, and then you know how much you got to put in, and then see if you lost any in between. I like having a dipstick. I will say on the John Deere, there was a dipstick back here, and it gave me that, you know, a good feeling that, okay, I know I'm within the range that it's supposed to be operated at. On this one, I don't really know. I just look at the sight gauge down there and said, yep, there's oil in there. But you know, if you had a hydraulic leak on one of your lines or something like that, I think it'd be a pretty good idea, or you know, to have some type of dipstick back here. Also, right next to that, you've got your rear remotes. The remotes on this one, it comes loaded with one of them, and you have options for up to 2 more on the rear. So one cool thing, the remote that they give you though, it's spring loaded. So my buddy Jack down the road, he recently bought an LS tractor, and he was going to have a third function added to his front end loader. Well, rather than doing a third function, they said, why don't you just hook up to your rears if you're not using it, and you can control the closing and opening of the grapple with this. So I said, oh, that's pretty cool. I've used this tractor with that. It's actually not bad. It's actually pretty intuitive to operate both of these simultaneously. So at some point I will be getting a grapple, and I'm going to, instead of putting a three-way switch or another switch up there, I'm just going to use this for my opening and closing the grapple. And since it's a spring loaded one, so if it wasn't spring loaded and you had this forward, it would cause your grapple to continue to close or open based on whatever direction. But since it's spring loaded, you clamp to a certain pressure, you release, it holds that pressure. That's a really cool little feature there. So I like having it spring loaded, and it should be a pretty easy addition when I get my grapple. I can just, you know, easily take some hydraulic lines, quick connects back here, route them up to the front where the grapple is, and I'll have an operating grapple. So I've talked about this in the past, the toolbox. I'm not a big fan of the toolbox, but I'm not completely opposed to it, so much so that I haven't taken it off yet. The toolbox, it's just cheap and plastic, and it's a pain in the butt to close one-handed when you're on the tractor and get into. However, it does hold all the necessary things that I need in here. It's not that big, but it holds enough of the, you know, little cotter pins and clips and all this junk that you would probably need on your tractor, you know, a socket set, all that stuff. So again, it is kind of a pain to close. The only time I really ever lock these down, because I mean, it locked that time one-handed, but typically it's hard to do one-handed. The only time I close that is when I'm on the road. Most of the time on the farm, it's just sitting just like that. It does keep rain out as long as the wind doesn't blow it open. So it's kind of a gripe, but I mean, it's not enough of a gripe for me to change it yet. Maybe one day I'll add like a robust metal box there, but for right now, it is working and it is what it is. This bag right here, I did have someone comment on a previous video. Finally know what this bag is for. It's kind of funny because I would never use it like that, but it's for your manual. I guess whenever the tractor is shipped, they have your manual and some documents in there. I use it to hold some hammers. So whatever. It's kind of a, it's funny. It's like the toolbox. It's, you know, I gripe about it, but I haven't griped about it enough to really care to change anything. The cup holder, it's a cup holder. It works for holding cups. I will say this though, it does not hold some of the large canteens that I put. In fact, I'll put my canteen over there and you can see where it kind of scuffs up the paint a little bit because I've got a big canteen while I'm on the tractor. I guess it's time to get onto the tractor and we'll talk about some of the gearing on the tractor and some of the operations of the tractor. All right, so I'm a rather large dude, 6'4", 300 pounds. Getting on and off this tractor is very easy. It's you know, comfortable tractor. The seat does have adjustment. One of the things that, again, with this being an economy tractor, your steering does not tilt up or down. It's a fixed location, which I'm totally cool with because it's a, you know, a pretty standard position for how a steering wheel should be. Another interesting thing is I like the color of the seat. Now you're saying, why does he like a black seat? Isn't it hot in the summer? Yes, it is hot in the summer, but my last tractor had a yellow seat. And I can see a little bit on here, but on a yellow seat, the black gunk that you get on a tractor seat looks pretty bad. On this one, from a distance, you can't tell all that black gunk's on there because it's a black seat. So take it as it is. The floorboards here, yes, I have not gone through and added my roll-on bed liner. I will do that at some point. You can actually see where I put my feet, and that's about the only place I put my feet. Really not an issue. I use this tractor all the time, so rust doesn't really build up. But at some point, I am going to go ahead and change that out and roll on some bed liner. All right, so getting onto the tractor, let me just show you. Again, I go 1 foot in front of the other. Literally, there is no twisting of the body. Once I get up on 1 foot there and slide down. There's plenty of room for me to get on and off this tractor, and there's plenty of room off of the steering wheel for my legs. The seat does adjust. I haven't adjusted this seat in forever, but well, I can't do it one-handed right now, but there is an adjustment on the seat to go forward, back, however you want to do that. And that's all fine and dandy. On the actual operation of the tractor, it's much like any other tractor with the seat and controls. It's very simple. This is the one that actually has the, what do you call it, the shuttle shift style. So you have your forward and reverse as well as your clutch. If you want to go forward or reverse and change up, you actually have to depress your clutch, and that's just a standard operation on a tractor, no worries. They do offer this tractor as well as the 2706E in hydrostatic as well. I opted not to do the hydrostatic. There's a slight price increase on that, but also it will take away just a few horsepower off your rear PTO, and you had to run a different type of oil and everything else. There's a few factors that played into it, but I grew up using a tractor like this and I prefer having the gears. It's just a little more convenient for me. So on operation, if I went to, so say we had this in drive going forward and everything, and I wanted to go and turn this tractor on. So you go through a little startup sequence here. So let's go ahead and start this tractor up. Oh, it's not starting. Why is that? It's because you're actually in drive. It's like you're wanting to go forward. That's a good safety. So can I start it if I have my clutch in? No, you cannot. The only way you can start this tractor is if you're in neutral. You can start it in neutral with the clutch depressed or not. it's up to you. So we'll go and crank up the tractor. Excuse me, I'm at 224 hours, not 223. All right, so tractor started up. Steering wheel, it's a steering wheel. It works. As you turn, the tires turn, so that's good. You have your little cluster down here for lights and everything. They all, you know, that's pretty standard on most tractors. One thing I do like is your PTO being right here. On the John Deere, I liked it on the side here too. It was pretty easy, but when this thing's on, it's easy to see on your dash. So I'll go and turn it on. So you have the red light that pops on, so you know it's on. But let's talk about how this PTO works. So in order for this to work, you have to push and turn. So if I just push it down, nothing happens. So you cannot accidentally start the PTO unless you want to. So you push and then you turn, you release, and your PTO is on. To turn it off, if I need to quickly turn that sucker off, boom, you just press it, it automatically springs back and goes to the off position. It's pretty nice. You have this soft start right here for your PTO. So if you're at a high RPM, you've been bush hogging, and you want to turn your bush hog on and off. So you turn it off and you want to turn it on without having to take down your revs. If you have this on, what it does is it slowly engages your PTO without that big jerk, and it doesn't eat up your clutch. Pretty fancy. I don't use it very often unless I'm doing a lot of bush hogging and I just, you know, don't want to take the tractor off of high RPM. Another cool thing that I like is you have the ability to put your spindle for your PTO in neutral. So I'm engaged right now. Now I'm disengaged. It's really great to have that where you can disengage that. If you have a tool on the back and you can't get the splines to match up perfectly, you put this in neutral, you can move it by hand, no problem. I find that I use this not for a bush hog, but I use this on my tiller quite a bit, because sometimes when your tiller's on the ground, you can't move it forward. That PTO shaft is kind of locked, so I spin my spindle on the rear of the tractor, vice having to move the shaft on the actual tiller itself. Pretty nice. Put that back in there. Again, for four-wheel drive, up is in two-wheel drive, and you push this down, and it pushes the lever forward and a bar forward, and it locks the front axles, or puts them into a four-wheel drive. It is a slip differential, and if you are stuck on a hillside, you need to lock your rear. You have a foot peg right here that you press down. You mash that down while you're turning it, and it locks your rear differential. Most tractors I've seen have had that, so that's all fine and dandy. Your ranges on your tractor, so you have a low and you have a high, and we'll say that turtle is low and rabbit is high, whatever. It's however you want to say it. So I had a question the other day, or what is the gearing on a 2-speed, you know, transmission like this? So I am very rarely in the low range of gears unless I am pulling something very heavy, or pushing something very heavy, or running a tiller in tight locations. To give you an idea of how slow this is, we'll do that here after I pull this log out. It's extremely slow. Your slow range is pretty much everything up to a walking pace. Anything above a walking pace is your high range. Your high range, I have, you know, 1 through 4, and each of the high and low, as well as forward and reverse. First gear in high range is when I'm wanting to go slow and I have a big log on the front of the tractor. Second gear is what I stay in 80% of the time. Second gear, high range, 80% of the time I'm staying in that, because that's the speed at which I bush hog. That's the speed at which I, you know, move logs around the property for the most part. If I'm on the property and you want to go from point A to point B a little bit quicker, I'll go into third gear, so 3 high. That's a speed that's about as fast as you could possibly. No, that's a light jog is what that is. Too high is essentially as fast as you could walk. I mean, you're speed walking. 3, that's a light jog. 4 is what I use whenever I go on the roads and I'm traveling from one place to another and need to go fast. Or I think 4 in high gears around 17 miles per hour. So the range of gears, a middle gear would be nice, but it's not that bad. Again, I've had no issues going down the road or moving things around my property. I just don't use my low range gears a whole lot, again, unless I'm pulling something that's really heavy, pushing something really heavy, or working with my tiller in a really tight location. All right, so now we've talked about that. I'm in high gear. We'll go and put this into, let's go and put it into low gear. I'll show you. So we got it in low gear. We'll go and put it in low 1. I'm hooked up to a log back here. The log is, I don't know, it's a water rope that's pretty long, and I'd say the butt end is about 15 inches in diameter. Nothing major. So we'll go ahead and put it in low gear, and I am in 2-wheel drive. We are blazing in low 1 right now, let me tell you. This is granny speed. But again, now I'm pulling, and I actually got to where my back tires are turning and my front tires are not. So let's fix that. I just depressed my lever right here, so I'm in 4-wheel drive. And we got nowhere. Let me get a little bit of oh, I'm a dummy. I was pulling all the dirt with me. I did not lift up my box plate. So yes, I was about to say, man, why is this tractor not pulling that? We'll go and switch to low 3. There we go. Now she's pulling. I was about to say, oh, this is going to be bad for the review. You can see I'm moving a lot of dirt there. And again, I'm in low 3. I can tell you that log's a heavy log. About just under 2,000 RPM. But it's pulling it no problem. In fact, let's go and lower the RPM. Look at that. I'm at idle. Still pulling that tree, no problem. Alright, so we've seen our low range gears. Now let's go ahead and put it into high. We're in high. And let's go into high 1. Again, a little bit faster. This is like a walking pace. And all I'm trying to do is get this tree to an area where I can start a fire. Alright. I'm going to stop it right here, and we'll go ahead and disconnect this tree, and we'll show you some more stuff. Okay, we're back on the tractor, repositioned here. I'm going to show you how I walk through the gears. I'm in high range. I'm going to start off with 1. I'm going to walk through it. I won't be doing a lot of talking. I'll talk about whenever I shift gears, but the wind is up, and I apologize. We're going to go up to the front yard, work our way through 1 through 4 on high range, and then we'll pick up a giant ash log and load it onto the mill so you can see the hydraulics in action. So here we go. Alright, first gear. That's first gear in high range. Switch to the second. Third. And then fourth. Fourth is a big gear. Oh, I know it's bouncing, I'm sorry. This is why I don't use 4th gear a lot on the farm, because it is so bouncy. Slow back down, put it in 3rd gear. Again, that's still a little bit bouncy as well, because it's pretty fast. And tractors don't have suspension. Alright, so up next, one of the next videos I'm going to be working on the channel is cutting up an ash log. That's the log we're going to pick up right there. And I'll run some numbers here and hopefully put this on the screen, and it'll show you how heavy this log is. A rough estimation. So this log has been cut now for 1.5 years, so it has done some drying. But the moisture content is not quite there. Alright. go ahead and try this at idle. At idle, no problem picking it up. Of course, we'll knock that cedar log down with it. Okay, so rough numbers. I think it's 32, 33 at the base. I'm at idle. Has no problem picking it up. Has no problem tilting, either forward or back, up or down, all around. Heavy ash log, no problem. And then this is essentially what I do 90% of the time with my tractor. Just take it over here to the sawmill. I don't actually use my loader very much on the sawmill unless it's something I can't pick up with the tractor, and put it on there. Again, this tractor, even though it's an economy style tractor, I will say that the hydraulics are very, very smooth. Not like what I had on my last John Deere. They were very jumpy. And again, I'm doing this all like one-handed. Very heavy log. If you're keeping up with the channel though, there are a lot of instances where I'll show loading a log on there. But now I've got that log 2 feet off of the back of my forks, and it still picks it up no problem. I'm trying to get the roll on there without hitting the mill too hard. Come on, baby, roll. Some logs are just difficult. There she goes. Gentle as can be. There we go. So, this is kind of a lead into my next video too, so you can see what we have in store here on the property. But again, I'll throw some numbers up that show how heavy this log is. And I'll show you up close too. So that's over 32 inches at the butt. It's around 9 foot long. And the other end down here, it's 28 inches or so. That's a big log regardless. Overall, tractor is a phenomenal tractor. If you're looking for a tractor that's at a very inexpensive price point for the class of tractor it is, take a look at the 2705E. I'm at 224 hours. There's a lot of things I love about this tractor. There's very few things I dislike about this tractor. I like the 4-cylinder diesel with no diesel particulate filter. That 4-cylinder diesel again is pretty naturally balanced. I prefer it over a 3-cylinder diesel. I like the weight of the tractor. It's a very heavy tractor. I like the capability of the front end loader. The gearing, I've said it in other videos, a middle gear would be nice, but I don't really need it, so I'm not too worried about that. It's something you'd see on, I think, the next model up. When I say next model up, not an E series, but they do have some Massey Fergusons with the same engine, everything, that it's a little more fancy. I think that's like the M models. And then I like just the overall fit and finish of the tractor. It's a metal frame. It's a metal body. There's really no plastic on there, with the exception of the little area on the console. I really am just 100% happy with this tractor. It has been probably the best investment for the farm, and I hope you take a look at them. We'll see you around. Thanks. Okay, so I can't end the video quite yet. I gotta do one more thing to show the capability of this tractor. The ash log that I showed at the very end, loading, is now cut up. This is all of that log with the exception of one 6-inch thick slab over there. I've got to do some more work with that. But the orientation of this is a 7-foot long log. You can see it's far out in front of the forks. We're going to show you what this actual tractor can do when carrying this load. Now this is a very heavy load. I've got to get this back to the barn to dry. But you will see at idle, let me snug up against there real quick. at idle picks up that long section of wood far off the pivot point of the tractor. So yeah, my final thoughts on this tractor, it is, in my opinion, if you're running a sawmill, this would be the best tractor for the money for a sawmill operation. For me, again, I can handle up to a 35-inch diameter log, or 30, actually larger than that. My widest cut's 35 inches. This log in front of me, we have some 28, 29-inch slabs. Pretty impressive, and I'm carrying it back. I count that as a win. The best tractor for running a sawmill. Hope you enjoy. Thanks.